Good morning and happy Monday. Welcome back to the Sideline Grind, episode 10. Milestone episode today, and we're celebrating with my big brother and mentor, Jon Bills. Special time for me, so hope you guys all enjoy it. Cheers. Okay, we'd like to welcome on our next guest, a guest that is very close to me. It's actually my brother. He's the tight ends coach at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. It's Jon Bills. Johnny boy, how we feeling, brother?
I'm feeling great, Stinks. I appreciate you guys having me on. Long-time listener, first-time caller, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, nobody's heard me referred to as Stinks before, so there we go.
I knew that was going to happen at some point. I apologize.
Yeah. No,
might as well get it out of the way.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Well, hold on. Let's get into it. How does the nickname Stinks come about, really quick? Let's have Johnny Boy explain it. Johnny, why is he called Stinks?
Stevie, do you mind?
Go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, growing up, Steven had really bad morning breath. So obviously, when I was much bigger than him, or Matt was bigger than him, we'd get in wrestling matches, and his defense mechanism would be to breathe in your face.
I mean, what are you supposed to do when you're 8? You know? That's a 6-year difference with the oldest brother. I mean, 14 to 8. That's like 60 pounds right there.
So that led to the nickname Stank, which eventually developed into Stinks, and he's been saved in my phone as that ever since. So
yeah, it flows nicely. So I can't hate.
Like all good nicknames do.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, let's fire into it. So Johnny boy, you've been around the block. A lot of schools. Ended up at UMass now, which is awesome as a tight ends coach. But I want to ask, what was your favorite class that you took as a graduate assistant?
Favorite class I took was, it's like apparent now, it was a concept called critical media literacy. And this is at UCLA. And this is back in 2016. Just the idea, the concept that the majority of the media is owned by a handful of corporations, and just understanding and appreciating that everything that is delivered to you from a media sense has a purpose and some sort of message behind it, and having like an appreciation and understanding of that, like especially in today's day and age, is crucial. Right. To try and like navigate those different mediums. So
yeah, I was about to say that's probably not relevant at all, is it?
Oh man,
complete waste of time.
No, it's the balance between building your own perception of what's going on and just accepting what they're telling you as the truth.
Oh, absolutely. We can start a podcast talking about that.
Yeah, has nothing to do with coaching, but that's fine. We'll change the title to something else.
No, but I mean, that is a good point, though. Like that, when you are, you're consumed by a sport that is all encompassing. It really is, especially as a GA, right? You know that I love hitting on the GA bit.
Oh, yeah.
You still have to be immersed in all these other courses, and especially at a school like the number one public university in the country, UCLA.
Whoa.
There's some debate behind that.
It is. And I think probably the stats came out again, number one most enrolled in or applied to school in the country. But it's, that you have to be, interested or not even more so than interested. You have to be involved in these classes. And one in particular, like what Johnny Boy is saying is, so I think it's good. It makes you more of a well-rounded person, and being a well-rounded person makes you a better coach. I don't know, Johnny, what do you think?
I wholeheartedly agree, wholeheartedly. But it was just like, especially like you're saying at UCLA, I think the girl that sat next to me in this class was a Harvard undergrad. And I'm just sitting there like,
hey, don't shoot yourself short, man. Yeah. You got a great education too.
Sure did.
Was she the one who was plucking out her eyebrows from nervousness, like that type of deal? Like, no, she has to get an A in this class?
Johnny, I already know what you're thinking right now.
That's what Adam's thinking. It took 2 minutes for an internship.
Yeah.
Quote or example.
Oh, man. That's what I'm talking about right there. All right, well, now that we're on the topic of UCLA, 2017, so second year, Texas A&M, first game of the year. Y'all are down 44-10 with 4:08 left in the third quarter. Obviously you went on to win 45-44. I was
There's
losing
nothing
my
obvious
mind.
about that.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Well, I mean, it's known as one of the biggest comebacks ever in Division I football. Like, how do you not know that?
Yeah.
But the question is, what was the most negative thoughts you had in the third quarter?
I mean, Adam was right there next to me, so he can attest to it as well. But that first week, that second season, I don't want to say it was miserable, but it was a lot of work. We were up there pretty late, and I know Adam was up there 1, 2 a.m., typing up passing notes and this and that. They went into the scouting report and game day prep. And I can't remember the time, 4:04? At some point in the third quarter, it's just like, whoa. Like, is this worth it? We put in all that work and thought we had a chance to be really, really good that year offensively. And here we are with 10 points that's as negative as it can get, which I'm slightly embarrassed to admit it now, but that's the truth. Like that was not a fun feeling. And Webbs, like I said, you were right there with me in the press box, so you can say what you.
Well, no, I know this is Johnny, this is about you right now, but I do just want to say, like, when you come in at halftime, you can still, even then we were kind of at a loss, right? We're all just kind of like, whoa, what just happened? What's going on? Okay, all right, let's circle the wagons here. We can come out, have a positive second half, right? We can turn this around. Mm-hmm. And then as the third quarter is going on, it's just not getting any better. You're just like, oh boy, and it's like, what do you do? But, it was one of those crazy things. It was a fun game to be a part of now, hindsight, but at the time it was incredibly daunting knowing that,
you got a whole season ahead of you.
You had a whole season ahead of you, and this would be such a horrible way to start that year off.
Okay, so moving forward, you guys talked about your relationship together a little bit. Webbs obviously lived with you, Johnny, for a month out of the gate. What was that experience like?
Stressful. There was a lot going on when Webbs moved in with me. Like, I was moving out of an apartment, and I don't know if you know this. I'm sure you do, but like, Webbs, remember I was getting ready to move out, packing all my stuff, and all of a sudden I get a call, and I'm thinking I'm going to Indiana, and going straight to there, and we're celebrating, and 2 days later, it fell through, and it's like, okay, well, let's regroup and find a new place to live and all sorts of stuff. But living with Webbs was a lot of fun. We just being able to go to work and then kind of reflect on the day, and not in the necessarily high intense manner, but just kind of having someone to bounce ideas off of, someone that thinks similar to you. And obviously that relationship kind of began there, and it's really cool to see how it's grown and how it's developed and how he's kind of jumped in with you guys, with you and our older brother Matt, and same.
We're in a bowling league together. Yeah,
same with Jazz and how she's tied in with your guys' girlfriends and wives, and I think that's awesome. So,
well, I guess for the listeners, really quick, if you don't mind, Johnny, give us a little bit of the starting point, and then maybe what brought you to UCLA.
Sure, don't mind at all. First job, I'll give you the 30-second version. I GA'd at Western Kentucky in 2012. Was fortunate enough to, after that season, Coach Taggart got the job at South Florida. He brought me with him as a GA. Was there for 2 years. Felt the strong desire to be a full-time coach, and had to find a way to do that and run my own room, and got the opportunity to go to Adams State, which is in Alamosa, Colorado, a town of about 12,000 people up in the mountains at 7,500 feet of elevation in Colorado. So that was a blast. And then after that,
were you running hills up there, or what was going on?
No, did a little hiking. I wouldn't necessarily classify that as running hills, but we did some hiking, we did some exploring, And then after that season, a buddy of mine that I GA'd with at South Florida both years, when I left to go to Adams State, he left to go to UCLA. And he recommended me for an O-line GA spot that had opened up, and did a little interview there with their director of ops, and got the opportunity to go to UCLA in 2016, was there in 16. And then after that season, insert Adam Weber. And that kind of fast forward you to that January of 2017 that you had asked previously.
Well, let's take a step back out of the gate to back when you were back at Michigan, Johnny. Obviously, something that was, one of our family's toughest times was when you and two of our cousins were in a serious car accident. Johnny had a second through fourth vertebrae infused in his neck. So it was pretty serious, and he wasn't able to continue playing football any longer. I want to know, Johnny, how do you take that experience that you had and everything that that followed that, and apply it to your coaching approach today?
I think the first lesson that I think we always kind of knew, in the way we were raised, we always kind of had the appreciation for life, but that just kind of solidified that kind of mindset. The positivity and the attitude of gratitude, if you may, and just that positivity is infectious, right? So having the opportunity to be around players, 100, 110, 120 players every single day, and have the opportunity to impact them with something as simple as, "Hey, Adam, how's your day going?" I don't take opportunities like that for granted, and that's the biggest thing. And then on top of that, just a lesson that our mom kind of taught me is I remember I had, so in the halo going into with the C2, C3, C4 fusion together, they put you in a halo. And what a halo consists of is I woke up in the hospital with 4 screws drilled into my skull to keep, it's a little touchy, to keep your head in alignment so your neck can heal and that fusion can kind of set in. And shout out to Mike Barwis. My neck was so strong that they decided they needed to put 2 more screws in.
Attaboy.
Yeah. So I woke up in the hospital with the 4, but the other 2 that they added in, I was wide awake for that one. So I remember our mom was with me there, because obviously I couldn't drive, and getting in the car afterwards and just venting. And there's another word that I'd like to say that starts with a B.
You can say whatever you want.
That I won't say. And we call our mom H, just for the record. H turns to me, she goes, "Johnny, what can we do? Like, what do you want me to do?" This past week when I was at home during a little vacation we had before we got rolling, like, this just kind of sums up who our mother is. Our dad had a stroke about 1.5 years ago, and unfortunately he lost vision in his left eye. And similar to myself, and just how dealing with a little bit of adversity and trying to find a way to better yourself and make the best of it. And really just to summarize who our mom is from not feeling bad for you. He came back from the golf course, like his second or third time when he went out golfing. And our mom asked, "Gee, how was it?" And he goes, "Harry, it's just not the same." And our mom responds, "Well, go to the driving range and figure it out." And like that just summarizes to a T, and epitomizes who she is and what she's about, because you're not going to feel bad for yourself, and there's none of that going on. Go to the driving range and find a way to figure it out. And that's something that's going to resonate with me forever. And I can't wait to share that with my players and any opportunity I can, because that's the truth.
No, that's our parents right there, man.
No, absolutely. And for a player, hey, go on the sled and figure it out.
Well, yeah, you only have so much energy to give in a day, right? And you only have, like, you wake up, you have so much energy in your body, and you can put food into it and re-energize yourself. But if you're going to waste time feeling sorry for yourself, that is, I already said it. It's wasted. It's wasted energy. It's
Absolutely.
like, don't focus on what you can't do. Focus on what you can do to get better or to change your particular predicament, or maybe more importantly, your mindset or perspective on that situation.
Absolutely.
So it can come across as like, yeah, it's like, you know what, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, shut up, no one cares. But it's also like, you know what, I do care what you're going through, but the thing is, that's not going to help you. You don't need to hear this. Like, just this is where we're at. Let's now figure out how we move on from this.
No doubt. I use my notepads in my iPhone a lot. So I have a file in there that says head coach's notes. If I'm ever fortunate enough to be a head coach one day, here are things that I want to remember that I've learned along the way. Okay, so one of the things in there says empathize, but don't sympathize. Yes. Empathize, try and understand where a player is coming from. Try and put yourself in that young man's shoes, but don't ever feel sorry for them, because society in this world, no one's going to feel sorry for them. And that is a crucial point, at least in my mind and in my opinion, to being a successful and an impactful coach.
Well, and just to hit on that though, like just to realize, or at least how I view it is, sympathize can put, let's just put that at like a low level, right? Like sympathizing is a low level. Empathizing with somebody is at the highest level you can truly get to somebody else, right? That's you feel somebody else, or you try to at least put yourself, for lack of better words, in their shoes. And that's, it's a big way. So to be able to empathize with somebody, it's hard to learn, it's hard to teach, but if you can do that, if you have that capability, man, it speaks volumes, and it reaches other people by being able to empathize, but again, not sympathize. So I think that's an amazing what you said thing, John.
It gives you a perspective and gives you an opportunity to be in that person's shoes and to help them, right? And whereas sympathy doesn't help anyone. And just the same concept and mindset that we've been discussing, but empathy, in my mind, that's such a powerful word, and that's one of the most underrated abilities in today's society, is to be able, especially like, I mean, I thought that I wrote that note down probably 3-4 years ago, and now in today's world and everything that we have going on in today's society, like that just amplifies it all. But there's a lot to be said about the value in being able to empathize with someone, and not only in this profession. That's part of being a human being in my perspective.
All right, Johnny boy. Well, let's fully change the topic, and I want to ask you what in your eyes makes a great head coach?
I've never been a head coach, so I can't necessarily speak to that. This is about the time where I flip it. I said, why don't I interview you? So
I think I can help you with that Pan situation.
Lebs, why don't you take a stab at that one?
No, I kind of like this. This is like a new age thing where you interview the interviewee. I like this. Sure. I agree with you, Johnny boy. You. How do you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, right? And only your only experience. And there's, hundreds of head coaches, coaching in football, right? And then put on top of all the other sports, there's thousands of head coaches at high levels, right, around the whole entire globe. So there's many different ways to do it, but I think what you kind of hit on, it's taking enjoyment, being around other people and wanting to make them better, right? And but unfortunately, as a head coach, you're dealing with so much other stuff, right. And so it's so easy to critique. It's so easy to pick and choose what you would have done, sitting in the stands. But it's truly being down there. So until you get there, it's hard to say, but you only can speak of the people you've been around and your experiences. But I think we would be all in agreement that a good head coach is somebody that you think or feel, more importantly, cares about you, and gives you the time of day and wants to get to know like your story and wants to make you a better person. And it may not be, and then also importantly is going to shoot it to you straight, right? You might walk into their office and be like, why am I not playing? Why am I not doing this? And he's gonna be like, listen, you're not good enough. I got 2 other guys in front of you who are better than you. So get better. Like you got to try harder. But then on top of that, it's like, well, here's what you can do.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? Like give them tools of how they can become better. And that's all you can really ask for. So I don't know. Again, it's not a loaded question, but it's a very difficult question. So I don't know how to truly answer it correctly, but you only can speak for yourself, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I flipped it on you.
Yeah.
No, but you touched on something that, like when I mentioned it earlier, I felt the need to be a position coach when I went to Adams State. So I've been a GA for 3 years, and you hit it on the head. Like when you're a GA, I was essentially the assistant offensive line coach. So you're there, you're listening, and you're helping in any way that you can, pulling guys aside and giving a different perspective. But when you're a GA, you're like, oh, I could have taught that better, or oh, I could have made this point. And until you're actually running the room and making, like, it's easy to pick the 5 decisions that you would have done differently or the 5 points you would have done differently. But until you're running the room and you realize that you have to make the 100 decisions and 100 points and 100 lessons that go into being a position coach. Like I didn't have an appreciation for that at all. And it's easy to sit back and say I would have X, Y, and Z differently, but there's a whole multitude of other things. And I think that just continues to progress, like as you move throughout the profession. So next, like as a coordinator and realizing all that goes into that, and then to take it one step further to a head coach, like there's a multitude of different hats that they need to wear in aspects that I can't even appreciate because I've never sat in that chair. But my ultimate kind of what makes, I'll retract the statement. I won't say head coach, but what makes a great coach, no matter what level or what position, is just to be your genuine self, right? The David Cutcliffe, I'm a young, is my 2nd or 3rd year. I'm at the coaching convention, and David Cutcliffe's up there speaking to a few thousand people, and he said something that I'll never forget. And I know it's been said a bunch of different times by different people, but you can't bullshit young people. And if you try to be someone other than yourself, they're going to see right through that and right through you, and they're going to lose a sense of trust and a sense of respect for you. So in order to be a great leader of men, and as a head coach, you have to be a leader of not only your players and not only your coaches, but everyone involved in that organization. Like that, you carry that entire weight of the organization on your shoulders everywhere that you go. In order to be the leader of something of that magnitude, you got to be a genuine person and be yourself and just pour yourself into everyone throughout the program. So,
Johnny, I want to ask you, when you made that switch to become, or to take that leap, it is a leap of faith, to take your own room on, was the thought process exactly kind of what you already described, is I'm ready to take on greater responsibility? Or what, because everyone's path is a little bit different, and the other people we've kind of already interviewed, different paths to get to different spots. There's not one truly right way or the proper way to do it. But for you, for your own journey, your own path, getting that your own room early on in your career, how important was that?
I think it was very important to me. I thought I more or less the first year that I was there at South Florida was the tight end coach as a graduate assistant. So I had the room, ran the meetings. Those were essentially my guys, and due to some different things that worked out throughout the staff, going to that second year, I went back to, not back, but I moved into an assistant O-line coach role again, which I love working with the O-line. That was a heck of an experience, having the opportunity to do that for 4 or 5 years.
O-line, it's a whole different breed of human beings. They're not getting much praise. There's the 5 guys, and it's the battling the trenches, where the tight end is a little bit a part of that, but they're on the outside. and rarely do they kind of fit into inside responsibilities, or they have to be outside and be wide receivers. Like truly a tight end is the I guess the new age hybrid type of player. So, it only serves you better to probably know the offensive line game, but you're dealing with two different type of personalities, I guess, right? Or no? I don't know. Explain that.
No doubt, definitely. I mean, the O line is its own beast, and like you said, they're their own kind of entity, and loved working with those guys. But I don't want to say you're excluded from the passing game and the skill guys, but when you're in that room, you are, and especially as a GA, you're kind of limited in how much you can spend time learning the pass game. Like that's something that I enjoyed living with you or living with Nick Sheridan, who's the quarterback coach now at IU, but he was our quarterback coach at South Florida and WKU, and just being able to have those discussions outside of the building as far as kind of developing yourself as a coach. But for me, it was working with the O-line was an opportunity to kind of expand my coaching repertoire, if you may.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I always knew playing the position at tight end, like I'd always be able to fall back on that. And you said
it was your comfort zone,
right? It's kind of the hybrid to the new age of football, and absolutely, like being able to coach the tight end position is awesome because you're involved in everything. You have to know every single formation adjustment, the shifts, the motions, the run game, the pass game, protections. Like I challenge our guys all the time. Anytime you're detached from the core, from the box, from the 5 offensive linemen, like you are the quarterback of that set. Right.
So get guys lined up.
Absolutely.
Make sure you're on the ball. Make sure the other guy's off the ball. That type of stuff.
Absolutely. Like the QB can't handle all that, and the tight ends, because of what we asked them to do, and I don't know if it's just in our offense or not. I'm sure it carries over to a lot of different offenses in the spread or the West Coast, but because they're involved in so much and they have to know so much, I think that's an easy ask of those guys.
Do you think it's important for an offensive lineman to maybe understand it's going to be, obviously, an offensive lineman should know if it's going to be a quick pass, a medium pass, or a deep pass, but how much does an offensive lineman, need to know in regards to that, or even so how much does a tight end, I know it's probably particular to the individual and how much they can actually consume and understand, but do you enjoy that type of student athlete that wants to know everything, or do you try to make sure that you can kind of focus them and be a sniper for their role on that particular play? What's your kind of philosophy on that?
I don't want to say it's a slippery slope, but it's kind of a slippery slope. Like you got to be the master of your domain before you can begin to progress to learning those things. Like I remember like a Scotty Quisenberry.
Yeah.
Right. You know, Quiz and there, and he goes, Coach, we're in there watching film, and Coach Clem is talking about the O-line coach I worked for under that season. He's talking about the pass set or something, or the run block scheme, and coaching him up on his technique. And he goes, Coach, what's the quarterback's read on that RPO right there? And it's like, Quiz, just just focus on blocking the 295-pound guy in front of you, and let Josh Rosen worry about the RPO there. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
no, that's exactly it. It's you sometimes if you, not to use an analogy or a quote or whatever, but it's like if you get lost up in the forest, you lose track of the actual tree in front of you, right? It's like, just worry about that tree in front of you. Don't worry about the forest. Just take care of that tree in front of you, big boy.
It sounds like Coach Koger inspired you to do some research on some quotes.
Yeah, big time.
No, that's a standard Webbism as we've developed over the last 3 years. So Johnny, obviously where we're at now, UMass. You guys came in. You've done a lot of work so far. You have a great recruiting class coming in. But I want to ask, what are 2 or 3 priorities from a coaching staff to ultimately turn a program around?
Trust your process. I think that's the biggest thing is, and Tommy and Todd Negocian, two big influences of mine, and listened to their podcast a couple weeks ago, and they said it. You kind of have your non-negotiables as a coach, and your philosophy, and what's crucial to you, and what you're going to demand from your players, and set that and stick to that. Don't ever waver from that. And everything else, there's a lot of, from an X's and O's schematic standpoint, things that you are probably going to have to adjust depending on where you are. And we're kind of going through it right now in a philosophical, offensively kind of transition a little bit, and just to fit more so what we have here and what can best put our players in a position to be successful. But the biggest thing, that has nothing to do with what we ask of our players. You know, Coach Bell or Walt Bell, our head coach here, we asked two things from them on the football field: play hard and play smart. And those are two things that we grade every single opportunity that we get the chance to evaluate those guys. And that's no matter, like I said before, no matter if we're spread one back, no huddle, or we're 22, 23 personnel running giant power, we're still going to ask our guys to play hard and play smart and demand that from our guys, which I think is vital to building a program. And our guys know that. Our guys can recite that to us. And then kind of off the field, this is my recruiting spiel right here, but off the field, we have one rule: be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, prepared to do your job well. And that's kind of all encompassing right there. And I'll go on my recruiting deal, but
let it out, brother.
If you're out after hours in a place you're not supposed to be, are you where you're supposed to be? You know, and that's a simple question. No. It covers that rule. And I think we, in this chat right here, we've all been in those positions before, and it's just having the understanding that, hey, you're a part of something bigger than yourself. And that's the coolest thing about football. That's what makes this game so great, is you are a part of something that represents far greater than yourself. And you're asking that individual to put those other 110 guys before himself, or something that he would, prefer to do in that moment. But he's got to think of everyone else, which I think that those two things that we do here are going to set us up for success. I wholeheartedly believe that. So.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's like, keep your ask simple, but keep it consistent. And throughout everybody, whether it be the walk-on who may never see the field but is a vital part of the team, to your starting player who may be the best person on your team, you ask the same, and it's consistent. So I think that's incredibly important. What I want to ask you is, by going to Amherst now, you took on a new role, right? You're now the recruiting coordinator. So maybe just kind of talk on to adding on a different hat, or putting another feather into your hat, or adding a different responsibility to you. How has that been for you?
Similar to what we talked about earlier. A lot of these positions, I was in coaching for a decent amount of time before I moved here, 8 years. So this past season was my 9th season. I had never been asked to be a recruiting coordinator before. And there's lots of things and lots of opinions that you have on the recruiting process when you're not the one making decisions. And we have a great, our general manager here does a heck of a job, and he kind of takes the brunt of the grunt work with recruiting. But we got a lot of resources on our staff. Like our secondary coach had been a director of player personnel for 5 years at University of North Carolina. And just pulling on those resources and listening to different opinions and trying to formulate the best plan. And especially right now, given the circumstance in COVID and what we've had to go through the past 4 months, and not having kids on campus, and that's not changing anytime soon. The NCAA just extended our dead period through August.
Yeah, I saw that.
just continue to push the envelope, be creative, and find different ways to engage and connect with players. And then kind of what I alluded to earlier, as far as what makes a great head coach, is being your genuine self. Like the same thing applies to recruits. If you're genuine and you can connect with recruits and players, and their parents and their coaches and the people that matter to them, like they're going to recognize that. And unfortunately, that's not something that they see every day or they experience with in every interaction they have with a coach. And I think, and I could be naive in saying this, but I think that pays significant dividends.
Johnny, how, and not, I don't want to get into specifics here, or anything, or give away any tactics, but in this new day and age, this unprecedented time that we're in, we're all, like all teams, or probably all individuals, right? We're all trying to adjust and figure out how the heck do we navigate this new world, whether it be going getting groceries or, people who are looking for work or whatever it may be. Everything is different than it's ever been before. As a football team, it's incredibly different, right? And recruiting is incredibly different. How do you come up with ideas? Do you like to come up with ideas yourself, or do you like to bring a staff together and be like, hey guys, we can't meet with players, they can't come on campus, what the heck do we do? Like, what's kind of your method for that?
I've been very fortunate in the people that I've met throughout the process. Part of moving to so many different schools is having the opportunity to meet a ton of different people. And I've been really, really blessed in that those people took the time to invest in me. And having those relationships to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Is there anything worthwhile that you guys are doing from a recruiting sense that we could apply here? And picking up ideas. And I'm not the only one on our staff that does that. Our whole staff does that. That's part of.
You'd hope so, right? The more you can take in, the better. Then it's like a brainstorm session.
That's exactly what it is. And I mean, we do that. This, like we do that from an X's and O's perspective too. Like it's part.
It'd just be different with X's and O's with like, yeah, you can't play with the right guard anymore. Like you figure that out. And you're like, wait, what? You just can't play with that anymore. So, I mean, that's like what quarantine kind of is, or like what's happening is, hey, you have to win over these players, these recruits, this 16-year-old kid, but you can't show them campus. You can't do anything and figure it out. I don't know. It's a weird place to navigate, but obviously you guys have been doing a successful job with it. So kudos.
You can't show them campus in person, but you can find a way to do it virtually. That's thank goodness we're not quarantined 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
Because then I'd have no
with
answer.
Your flip phone or your Nokia, you could maybe play Snake with them or something.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Oh man, Snake was the best. Hey, Johnny, do you mind explaining kind of what a virtual visit is and what takes place in that process?
A virtual visit is just trying to do so you got two different visits from a recruiting deal. You have unofficial visits where a student athlete's coming up on their own dime and finding their own means of transportation to come by campus. And then there's an official visit where we can pay for it and get a little bit fancier experience. But that unofficial visit, it's really just getting the opportunity to come up here, facility tour, see our facilities, which we're very, very fortunate with the facilities that we have. It's McGurk Stadium and our football performance center is very, very impressive, and it kind of speaks for itself. And then getting them around campus and seeing our campus tours, sitting down with our strength coach, Matt Shadid, who does an unbelievable job with his players, with our players, and same with recruits. Like, talk about someone that's the same guy every day and lives and breathes like a positive and demanding mindset. Like that's Coach Shadid. So getting them with academics, having the opportunity for them to see our academic presentations, see what our university is about as a whole. And we just kind of shift all that to do it virtually. So take them through a facility tour, which we've done on YouTube. And we did that prior to COVID. We did that to kind of highlight our facilities from a social media perspective. taking them around a virtual campus tour, which our university has already set up for us. Nice. And we got a couple coaches on staff that know our secondary coach. He went to school here, so he knows this campus inside and out and has seen it transition over the past 20, 30 years. So he does a heck of a job. Mm-hmm. Getting them on a Zoom call with our offensive staff and sitting them down with our offensive coordinator to see how we would use him in our scheme and how they can benefit and how they'll help us and we'll help them. And getting our head coach on there with him and his parents and just him kind of relaying what's important to him and how we're essentially going to flip this program and get it back to what it was 10, 15 years ago. So just doing all that stuff online and just like the rest of the world knows, it took a lot of transition and some kind of working out the kinks. But you can do a lot of the stuff that we've done on a daily basis prior to COVID virtually. And our staff's done a really good job transitioning.
It helps that no other program can do it differently than you right now, right? It's all equal playing field too. That's huge as well. It's not like you're just the only school that has to do it virtually. How long I'm just kind of curious, like if I was a recruit, how long would I be on a virtual visit?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've kind of bounced back and forth with that as a staff.
It's kind of weird. It's like because normally if a person's on campus, how long do you think? I mean, a whole day, right? I mean, it depends on the visit and if it's official or unofficial, but.
And where they're coming from,
sure.
if they're able to come back and do it, if they're an hour or two away, then you're probably not going to sandwich as much into it as you would if they're 4 or 5 hours away and then make a whole day a trip out of it. But we went back and forth as a staff and what's better to ask a player and a student athlete and his parents to come sit down with us 4 or 5 times for 20 minutes or one time for an hour and 20.
Yeah.
And they've gone anywhere from that 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And we try not to keep a kid in his chair and his parents in a chair for an hour and a half, because I know that's asking a lot. But depending on how those visits are going and how those conversations are going, you're never going to cut off a parent for asking a question, right? That's what you're hoping for.
No, it's a good point. You got to keep it fluid, but you also have to be respectful that it's hard to keep attention spans when you're doing it virtually. So it's kind of interesting to hear that. Yeah, you have to keep it. Even if you have this whole entire spiel set up and they're like, no, we're pretty good. You're like, but no, we have 2 more hours to show you. It's like, no, it's like, you have to be able to.
That's enough for today.
Yeah.
Just like any coach or any teacher or any salesman or whomever that has those conversations, you got to read the audience, right?
Yeah, sure.
You like the player and the student athlete, they kind of dictate how long those visits will go.
Sure, that's fair.
So Johnny, switching gears a little bit, you were around the block for a little while as a GA or a quality control analyst. What do you think are the biggest things that it takes to make that jump into a full-time role and have your own room as a D1 coach?
You have to do a damn good job, right? In the role, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, you have to do a really, really good job doing that task. But the toughest thing to make the jump to Division I position coach is just there has to be very, very little degrees of separation between you and that head coach. So I was fortunate enough to work as an analyst under Walt and our head coach here at UMass when he was the offensive coordinator at Florida State. And when he got the job here at UMass, he called me up and told me he's going to bring me with him, which was awesome for me and a great opportunity for me. But to rewind, if I wasn't at Florida State that year, no matter how good my relationship would have been with Coach Taggart, who I had worked for at 3 different schools, if Coach T had called Walt and said, hey, I got a great tight end coach possibility for you, I find it hard pressed to believe that Walt would have hired me because he didn't know me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which you can't blame him for that at all. So I've probably asked a number of coaches over the 7-8 years that I was an analyst or a GA or a D2 position coach to make calls for me. And it never worked out because, again, like those coaches didn't know me. And I'm sure there were a lot of other reasons that it didn't work out. But like in my mind, that's the biggest, is you have to, and there's only 120 FBS jobs. And there's only so much turnover that happens year in and year out. And I know that the coaching carousel is nuts these days. But at the same time,
I love it.
at the same time, like those relationships are few and far between. So having the opportunity to kind of take advantage of one is something that I feel very fortunate to have done. But it's not easy. It doesn't mean it's not possible. It doesn't mean that anyone can't get hired anywhere at any time, but that's just been my experience.
No, that makes sense. And the follow-up to that would be, what type of advice do you have for other coaches out there? Even high school coaches right now that might be listening, or kids that want to get into coaching. How do you build that relationship? How do you put yourself in the right situation to get that promotion?
Webb's hit on it earlier. Like, there's no perfect path, and there's like anyone that tells you that you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to be a full-time FBS position coach is flat out wrong, because there's no necessary blueprint for it. But I know when Kevin was talking last week, if you want to coach, start coaching. And the beautiful part about coaching is just the people. It doesn't matter what level you're at, or what you're doing, or what you're being asked to do, if you're going to have an opportunity to expand your network from there. And if you can expand your network and build a reputation that you do a damn good job of what's asked of you to be done, like, that's going to eventually catch on, and that's going to eventually pay its dividends. And I couldn't tell you if it takes, some people it takes a year or two, and they're an FBS position coach, and hats off to them. For myself, or even for others that have taken even longer, sometimes it takes 7-8 years. And that's
they're called doctors. A little Tommy Boy reference. It's all good.
Yeah, I know. You keep doing it every interview we do.
I'm glad you acknowledge it for the listeners and not us, because I think we all caught on to that.
Johnny Boy, there's a consistent message with it. It's regardless of where you are, you have to do a good job. Nothing's really going to be handed to you. And something that kind of resonated when you said that, and it got to like the front of my mind, was when I playing in the NFL as a backup quarterback. You really know, who knows what's going to happen. You're fighting and clawing just to stay on the team. Is you have to be prepared for your opportunity. It may never come, but be prepared for it, because if it does come and you're not, you will regret that moment for the rest of your life for not being ready for it. And it reminds me of kind of what you're saying is, regardless of where you are as a coach, whether it be Division III, high school, or little league football, up to Division I as a head coach, be prepared and be ready for it and do a good job, and the rest will kind of take care of itself along the way of sorts. Am I right with that?
That's the old walk-on mindset. And I know you don't know anything about that, because
easy.
But maybe you got a little taste of it when you were a backup in the NFL. But that's more or less what I tell our walk-ons is, just listen. Like, there's scholarship players are going to get an opportunity before you, just like, as you know, first-round picks and returning veterans got an opportunity before you did. But there's going to come a time where you're going to get that opportunity. And it's up to how you prepare yourself and how you handle your business to step in and take advantage of that opportunity to earn yourself another one. And the same thing kind of applies in coaching. This sounds cliche, but the same thing applies in life, right? Like, when you get the opportunity, no matter what business or industry that you're in, you have to be ready to take full advantage of it. And if you don't, then you don't know when that opportunity is going to come by around again.
Yeah, it may never come around again. Yeah, that's a good point.
So, Johnny, you touched on the Walk-On Nation a little bit, and I'm not jumping to a result that this person would be a walk-on, but do you have a specific player in mind that you think saw the biggest improvement since they first landed on campus and that you coached X amount of years, depending wherever you were?
That's a tough one because
I mean, all you guys probably improved immensely because they had such a great coach at the realm.
no, it's tough because like the majority of my career, it was spent as an assistant helping out here and helping out there. But like different players come to mind when you say that. Like, I mean, from a walk-on, okay, Caleb Wilson was a walk-on.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Right. So I didn't have anything to do with his development. Like I'm not going to take any credit there. Like maybe indirectly a little bit, but Coach Shear and I know Adam, we could talk here about the old ball coach, Coach Rip, for an hour because he's an incredible mentor, not only to the players but the fellow coaches and myself included. He's been with the Chargers the past.
A legend.
Yeah, that solves it right there. But Caleb was a former walk-on quarterback at USC and transfers. Maybe he was a high school quarterback and transfers to UCLA, and that happened before I got there. And next thing you know, he's catching 900 yards worth of passing, and he would have set records for us that 2017 season.
It was nuts.
Yeah, I mean his statistics. What was it, like 490 through
38 catches, 490 yards. He only had one touchdown, but that was in 5 games, and he got injured in that 5th game.
Yeah, I want to say those stats held up,
which is insane.
Almost through the year, or from a majority of the year without him playing, which is ridiculous.
No doubt. So someone like that, or like a Najee Toran, who was an offensive line, he was a guard for us. And the previous year, he was battling his weight, and he was still a starter for us and a damn good player. But he was about 275, 280 pounds, always struggling to keep that. In that offseason, he just committed himself to really putting on that weight and got up to around 300. And now he's still playing in the NFL 3-4 years later with the New England Patriots as an undrafted free agent. So, and someone that doesn't necessarily meet the measurables of what you're looking for, what the NFL is looking for from an offensive guard. He's about 6'2", probably 300, 305 now. But he is he's a professional, and that stuff carries over. And I know different coaches that have come on here have said that. But when you're a professional in your game and you're a pro about how you go about perfecting your craft, like that's going to take you a long way, and you're going to be able to make a nice career and a nice living for yourself doing that, as long as you continue that approach.
So Johnny, a quick follow-up to that. What does having or seeing these guys see so much success and knowing the effort that they put in, like how does that make you feel as a coach?
For me personally, that's everything. And whether it's someone perfecting their craft on the football field and able to turn that into an NFL career, or someone perfecting their craft in the classroom and able to turn that into a degree from a top 2-3 public university. Yeah. See what I did there? Or UMass or Florida State or wherever it's been. That's what you coach for. And in my mind, it's silly to coach for any of the other reasons that kind of come with the territory, right? Like that's what you do. And to see that development and see that growth and particularly, again, I know Coach knows the coach knows we're talking about the development as high school students, and I haven't experienced that. I haven't had the opportunity to coach at that level, but the same kind of, in my mind, applies to 18 to 22-year-olds. I know personally that was part of my biggest growth as a man was in those four years in college, and to see that development and see those guys grow, it's invaluable. And it definitely feeds me and keeps me going way more than a Texas A&M versus UCLA comeback does.
Although it was awesome.
Yeah, no, and it is. Again, the results of that and having a game like that, having a moment like that, it lasts forever. right? And not everybody will have to play in a game like that. Hopefully nobody has to play in a game like that, you know, but there is something to that. Those games come and go, right? Though they come and go. That's just the ebb and flow of the profession, of the sport, of playing it. But Johnny, I think you bring up a good point there of regardless of where they move on to, whether it be on the gridiron and continue that on at the professional level, or they move on into the professional world, these lessons that you're teaching, the commitment and the demand that you ask of your players transcends everything. Like what you're asking of them is not just only going to pertain to football. By being on time, by doing the right thing, be at the right place at the right time. That thing will, that's not just pertains to football. That's like life now. Like, you know, if you want to make it somewhere, or at least be productive and live the life that you want to live, the lessons in football and what Johnny Boy is teaching players, it's all right there. So it's just kudos to you for keeping that mentality, that perspective, because at times that can be lost. Sometimes it's only about wins and losses, which it is. It's a big part of that. But even bigger than that is the development of men.
No doubt. And thank you for that. And I just want to say a couple things. First, like that is by no means something that just applies to me. Like there is a ton of good quality coaches out there that preach and really truly breathe the same thing. But just to follow up what you're saying, we had a team chaplain when I was at Michigan, who's another just great influence of mine. His name's Chris Shepard. And he has a line that I'll never forget, like a football. And I'm gonna steal his exact quote. He goes, you can do a lot of things with the football. You can pass it, you can run it, you can throw it, you can punt it, you can fumble it. You better not fumble it. But one thing you cannot do is stand on it. And like if football is the foundation of your life, like then you're a little off. And it's up to a coach and to a lot of mentors in that young person's life, and whatever sport it is, to kind of just broaden that horizon a little bit and take the lessons that you learn from the game and apply it to your overall life and to better yourself for the long term. And that's by far the most enticing aspect of the profession for me, and something that I'll never get sick of.
That's my guy. That's why you're one of my biggest mentors. Maybe the biggest. I don't know.
Well, I love it. That's the little, as being a younger brother, I can speak to my older brother, but for Stinks here, talking about idolizing or looking up to an older brother who is living a life that he not only demands of other people, but he lives it himself. That's incredibly motivating. It's incredibly humbling, right? To realize that to do these things, you have to preach what you do, right? And do what you preach. And Johnny Boy does do that. And I want to say, and again, this isn't just to pump your tires, which I love. I have no problem pumping them up. But one thing that I was always blown away with being around Johnny in the coaching realm for the season we had together was your true motivation, your true why of coaching is the players. And that's something that there's many coaches that have that, I'm sure, but for you, it's very true and it comes across as very true. So again, it's no surprise to me or to your family or to anybody else that you're probably around that you've touched your players and other coaches, that you're gonna go far in this profession because you have the right intentions. So again, pumping your tires here, but it's all in a good thing. It's not a fake. It's not a infusion
podcast.
Yeah.
Solely.
Well, I certainly appreciate it, and I mean, I'm mad at myself that it took me 10 episodes to come on, because the confidence boost that I'm getting out of this podcast is just
it's lucky number 10, man. It's a big mark for us. All right, Johnny. Well, we're about an hour in. We'll definitely have you on in the future, if you're willing, obviously.
Of course. I heard Coach Piegler on the earlier episode. He recommended or suggested a tag team interview.
Yeah.
At some point? Could that potentially be in the works?
Hopefully when this quarantine ends, we'll start doing a road show here a little bit, and we'll just come and travel to the games and interview you pre and post game, that type of deal. And
I don't know our 2022 schedule. Maybe we're playing in East Lansing, or maybe Michigan State's coming out here, but that would be what do the kids say? An electric in-person.
Don't act like you don't say that already.
Yeah, no, dude. You'd say, you'd be like, it's gonna be so lit. It'd be funny. Yeah, that's what you say, Johnny boy.
Oh man.
Like put me out there like that.
No.
All right, Johnny. Well, again, really appreciate you coming on, man. It means a lot to me as a little brother, and obviously really proud of everything you've done. Webbs, go ahead.
No, I'm again very proud of you, John, as well. So happy that you're getting an opportunity to then showcase your personality, your coaching ability, your perspective on life, and your ability to impact other individuals, whether they be the actual players in your meeting room or the other players that you get to touch on a daily basis, or the other coaches. I think you bring everybody up. A rising tide lifts all ships, and you are that rising tide in a meeting room. So keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for joining our podcast. It's gone too fast. I would keep on talking with you. Love talking with you. I miss you, but thanks so much, man.
There we go with the pumping of the tires again. I've had a blast. Definitely look forward to getting on here with you guys again, and excited to see how this podcast continues to grow and develop. And proud of you two both as well for pursuing a passion and putting a lot of time into something that you guys enjoy. So I respect the heck out of that, and appreciate you guys and really enjoyed it. So. Thanks.
Thank you for the reciprocal of pumping of tires. I appreciate that. Lastly, I just want to give you kind of the platform. Is there anything you want to put out there in the universe? Anything you want to say, or last messages that we weren't able to bring up? Anything that you want to talk about?
No, just the biggest thing, and I know it's been touched on in previous podcasts, is just thank you to coaches, because I think now more than ever, our profession, regardless of level, if you're at the junior, if you're at Pop Warner, where you're doing all the coaching, right? Like that's where the real coaches take place, at the Pop Warner level, or the NFL, everywhere in between. Like, we're relied on a lot more now than ever to kind of be that voice of not necessarily reason, but truth, like you mentioned earlier, Webbs. In a young person's life, and having that opportunity is just, don't take it for granted, and take full advantage of having that relationship and having that voice in a young person's life to really make a difference. And that's the biggest lesson I've learned, is just kind of that ripple effect that can take place from that one relationship and that one opportunity to make that impact. And it's shocking to me, continues to shock me, and kind of takes my breath away again with the cliches. But to see that kind of play out in different players that I've worked with over the years, and I know, again, with the coach knows, right? Like, Stevie, we're there as 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old young boys, and to have that opportunity for those guys to kind of develop us into men, and the lessons that they taught us, and just that stuff is second to none in this day and age. So thank you to all of those guys, and to the men and women out there that continue to push that on their players. So I appreciate you guys.
That's my guy. I love it, and I love you.
Love you too, Stinks.
Appreciate it.
Love you, Johnny boy.
Love you too, Wes. I appreciate you guys.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. See ya.
got the sun in your eyes. You got the sun in your